Brad Williams, Frugal Finance, understanding Medicaid coverage for nursing homes, assisted living, and home health care. Long-term care expenses such as nursing home care, assisted living, or home health care can be overwhelming, especially as the costs increase year after year. In 2025, the average annual cost for nursing home care is expected to surpass $110,000, while assisted living is anticipated to approach $70,000. Despite the widespread belief that Medicare will cover these expenses, it typically does not. However, Medicaid, which differs from Medicare, can help cover long-term care costs for individuals with low income and limited assets. Medicaid is a joint federal and state program, with each state having flexibility in determining eligibility and available benefits. As a result, Medicaid programs and their coverage for long-term care services can vary widely across the United States. Medicaid coverage for long-term care, nursing homes, assisted living, and home health care. Historically, Medicaid only covered nursing home care, but more recently, many states have expanded their coverage to include assisted living and home health care. These services are often categorized under home and community-based services, and coverage is typically provided through state-specific waiver programs that adjust federal requirements for more flexibility. Today, Medicaid may cover long-term care services in the following settings: nursing facilities, assisted living facilities, home health care, often through the services of home health aides. Does Medicaid cover nursing home care? If you need long-term care in a nursing home, Medicaid can fully cover the cost if your income and assets fall below specific state thresholds. Each state has different limits for both income and assets, so the criteria can vary depending on where you live. Does Medicaid cover assisted living? In contrast to nursing homes, assisted living wasn't always covered by Medicaid. However, many states have started to include this service, recognizing that assisted living can be a more affordable and desirable option than nursing home care. Some states offer partial coverage or only cover assisted living in certain areas. So whether and how much Medicaid will pay for assisted living depends on your location. Does Medicaid pay for home health care? Many states provide some Medicaid coverage for home health care, but the specifics can differ significantly. While most states cover nursing care, home health aid services, and some forms of therapy in the home, only certain states provide full coverage for personal care services like assistance with bathing, dressing, and eating. Do all nursing home and assisted living facilities accept Medicaid? Not every nursing home or assisted living facility accepts Medicaid. It's essential to check directly with the facility to confirm whether they accept Medicaid, as some may prefer private pay residents due to higher reimbursement rates. Facilities that do accept Medicaid must meet certain state and federal standards and are subject to inspections to ensure they comply. How to find nursing homes that accept Medicaid? You can use online tools like the American Council on Aging's search tool to find nearby nursing homes that accept Medicaid. The Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services also offers a useful Care Compare tool to help you locate nursing homes that accept Medicaid payments. Types of assisted living covered by Medicaid? While assisted living doesn't provide the same level of medical care as nursing homes, it does offer various support services such as assistance with daily activities like eating, bathing, and dressing. Some states will cover certain services provided in an assisted living facility, but they may not cover room and board. Medicaid generally covers memory care services in a skilled nursing facility, but for most assisted living situations, you may have to cover part of the cost out of pocket. Medical eligibility for Medicaid long-term care. To qualify for Medicaid long-term care, the care must be deemed medically necessary, meaning a doctor must determine that you require the level of care provided by a nursing home, assisted living facility, or home health care. States have different guidelines on when long-term care is medically necessary, and you may need to undergo a level of care assessment. Financial eligibility for Medicaid long-term care. Medicaid has strict financial eligibility requirements, usually based on both income and assets. Qualify for Medicaid coverage for long-term care, individuals typically must have low income and limited assets. However, income and asset limits can differ by state, and some states have more flexible guidelines, especially for those over 65. Income limits for Medicaid long-term care. Most states allow individuals over 65 to qualify for Medicaid long-term care coverage if their income is up to 300% of the supplemental security income limit. In 2025, this is equivalent to $2,900 per month. States also offer a medically needy option, which allows those with higher incomes to qualify by using medical expenses to lower their income below the threshold. Asset limits for Medicaid long-term care. States set asset limits for Medicaid eligibility, with the standard limit in many states being $2,000 for individuals and $3,000 for married couples. However, a few states like California have significantly higher asset limits or have phased out asset limits entirely. Certain assets, such as a car, personal belongings, and a primary home, if the individual intends to return to it, are exempt from the asset calculations. The 5-year look-back rule and asset transfers. Medicaid has a 5-year look-back period to prevent individuals from transferring assets to qualify for coverage. Any assets given away during this period may result in a penalty delaying eligibility for Medicaid. The look-back period is generally 60 months, but may vary depending on the state. Income retention for nursing home residents. Once an individual qualifies for Medicaid and is admitted to a nursing home, they must contribute nearly all of their income to the facility. However, Medicaid allows the individual to retain a small amount of money for personal expenses, out-of-pocket medical costs, and certain other allowances. Spousal protection for Medicaid applicants. When one spouse requires long-term care, Medicaid has provisions to protect the financial well-being of the spouse who remains at home. These provisions include the spousal income allowance and the community spouse resource allowance, which ensures that the at-home spouse doesn't become impoverished while the other spouse receives care. Future Medicaid claims against the state. After a Medicaid recipient's death, the state has the right to recoup the cost of long-term care through Medicaid estate recovery. This typically involves recovering the amount spent on care from the recipient's estate. However, certain assets may be protected, and the specific recovery process can vary by state. Considering long-term care insurance for individuals who may not meet Medicaid's eligibility requirements or prefer private coverage, long-term care insurance is an option. Though costly, long-term care insurance can help offset the expenses of long-term care, though it doesn't cover the full cost. Applying for Medicaid long-term care. To apply for Medicaid long-term care, visit the state's Medicaid website or office. Be prepared to provide documentation such as pay stubs, tax forms, and medical records to verify your eligibility for nursing home, assisted living, or home health care services. Comment if you have any questions, tips, or if you're an expert in this area, leave any helpful guidance. Brad Williams, Frugal Finance. Thanks for watching. Hope that helps. See you soon.